Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today is our 300th video ever, and it's, well, almost our second year anniversary of the channel, so I thought I'd do a full citywide tour with a lot of first-person perspectives. So whenever I do one of these tour videos, I try and think of something to make it a little bit different or more interesting than the one before. So this time I thought, rather than going around with this sort of regular perspective that I usually do, looking at all of the progress made in the last 25 videos, I thought instead I would do a lot of first-person perspectives, and that will involve me removing temporarily virtually all the traffic from the roads all around the place, just so I can get as much access as I can at a really low level for my camera. And then we can get a much different perspective of all of the interesting goings on from much lower down. So let's make a start over here. Alright, so I have removed all of the cars and vehicles from this section of the city's roads, and as long as my camera's autofocus can keep up with all of the different views, I think this will be a really interesting perspective to look from. So before we get motoring along, I'm just going to turn around past one of our monorail tram stops, past the Blue Girder Bridge, just to look right across the bay, Brick Bay, to the Boardwalk and Beach area, where there's one of the rows of modulars and some taller buildings behind them, including the new Ferrari Tower and so on. And down here we've actually got quite a funny scene where a boy has actually been fishing and caught a full-blown dinosaur, aquatic one. And if we continue the pivot round, we've got one of our subway station entrances there, with a man going down, and our converted Chinese restaurant on a boat, which is modelled on the Destiny's Bounty, so we can look right up at those sails and see some of the planes in the sky, and a helicopter. Oh, and look, there's Batman on top of the town hall. Right, so to get over these dogs, I think I'm going to have to take a running ninja leap. So here we go. Ooh. Oh, and I made it. We're now safely onto the roads where I can hopefully wheel around and not catch too many obstacles with the microphone cable and so on. So there's the elevated monorail line with the blimp in the background, the park where a birthday party is going on. That all looks very fun from this level. Don't get too used to the open-sided train shed. That will be changing in due course. And then we've got a couple getting married at the town hall, and it's quite fun to look right up at these buildings from this perspective, isn't it? That's not a view you see very often, so I really like that. Next to that, we've got probably one of my favourite scenes in the entire city. No, not the old couple, the man who's lost the top of his ice cream. And he's really not very happy with that, is he? Right, so continuing down here, we've got Assembly Square, the car park, and then Brick Bank, and then the Grand Emporium. And this road looks very straight and long from this perspective, with the tram in the distance crossing elevated over the road on its track. So I'm going to try and wheel with my arm over the tall masts of the restaurant. Oh, just made it. And you can see a lot of people on all sides. So there's somebody on the bench with their dog, somebody with a lolly, somebody on their mobility scooter. There's the entrance to the car park and one of the many bus stops around the city. And then on our right we have Old Market Square, which has got a few fountains and lots of activity, lots of different scenes and so on, all around there. Now we will see probably into the backs of some open buildings on this tour, just from this level, because one of my... Oh, I'm going to have to do a ninja jump again. Whoop! Yeah, because from this perspective, I do have the backs of buildings open. if we look at that road that we just went past. But from the main viewing angle, they're all closed, and that's the way I like to have it. We've got an old man there with a Zimmer frame outside the laundrette, and the wonderful bright red bridge for the elevated monorail that goes behind this Grand Emporium building. Oh, with its extra floor, with the casino inside. And we can even see the freight train, which is incredibly long, with some of its cargo there. Right, so if I continue wheeling here, you can see that TV van. It's one I left on the streets because we're not going to be able to get under this elevator bridge. So I think I'm going to reinstate those cars, and then we can do a big ninja jump over the tram onto the next section of road. Right, so here we are now in front of the old Art Deco Cinema, and we can look right up above our heads and see the rather large construction crane. Very good. And if you haven't got your bearings, we came from this direction, down this incredibly long street with the row of modulars on and so on. So we're now the other side of that elevated tram line. And there's a guy on a Segway. There's another one of my favourite scenes through the gap, which is the haunted tree, who scared away a groundsman with a chainsaw, who had the temerity to suggest chopping off one of his limbs. And now really we're in the old town, where I've used a lot of the buildings from the Diagon Alley sets and so on to create a really sort of old feel, with a cafe there with one of my 3D signs that I've made, and a bookstore. You can still see the cargo train through all of the gaps just because it's so long, and one of the facades against the wall behind all these rows of buildings. And then we've got the first of the pubs, being the Crown Inn. There's lots of people having a nice refreshing drink there. And next to that is the tourist office and historic Blacksmiths, and they're both from the medieval village set, converted slightly. And they're both built indeed against Castle Rock, which is the mountain inspired by real life Nottingham, my city being Brick Nottingham, of course, that has a full-blown castle on the top. So we can peer up at that, up the tower, up at the battlements and all the knights guarding it. And that obviously is a tourist destination in my city. Now we can hopefully as well look down through a gap here into the marina area and Market Square. I'm not sure if that's going to focus that well. And then we can look forward to the next section, which is crossing the River Trent. And guarding the bridge is one of my statues, which is a horse statue there, who looks rather fantastic from this angle, I think you'll agree. So I'm going to do another clearance of roads and do a ninja jump over this statue. Okay, so there is the back of that statue with the crane now in the distance, and another look at the old town and the castle. You can now see the gatehouse and the drawbridge, with knights crossing that to get across to Major Oak Hill, where the oak from the Robin Hood legend is planted. And we can just have a quick look on the bridge over the River Trent, see the working water wheel that is part of the Blacksmiths, and the continuation of that cargo train. That's actually an elephant transport, which is why it's got a blue elephant head with a trunk on it. And then down here we've got Castle Green, which is a area to sort of relax for tourists. And there's a Mario mural there as a backdrop in front of a kebab shop, where this guy has clearly got a very large kebab, which he's looking impressed with. We've got a coffee chain hut, of which I'm going to have absolutely loads throughout my city to sort of have the running joke that there are far too many coffee shops in modern cities, and a juice bar as well. So I think that all works quite well. And then we continue the old town theme with a converted Ollivander's, which is now a jewellery shop, and the proprietor's waving off a rapper who's bought yet another big chunky gold chain. Next to that is Scrupulous, but there's a police chase going on here with an old style English copper chasing a robber with a diamond who's unfortunately knocked over an old lady. So she's looking a bit scattered, really, isn't she? Sorry for the jolt there. And obviously he's heading for Nocturne Alley, which I've just pushed in between these two builds. And that, past the graffiti, is the entranceway to Apollo Arcade, which is just a little cobbled alley that makes up the end of my old town with the old style lampposts and all the rest of it, and the statue after which the arcade is named, of Apollo there, the Greek god or Roman god. And there we've got the magic shop on one side, and we've got the dual purpose building here of Glove World, as I've converted the ground floor, where they sell the finest quality gloves to all sorts of people, quality supplies. And above that is the pink Flamingo Club, where you can probably see, if I pull back better, the sign for the nightclub where people go to have a great time. So that's that section there. And then if I can just wheel along here, we've got a very tall man on stilts coming out of the magic shop. There is the Palace Cinema. And there's a very good premiere going on at the moment. We can look right up there and see all the celebrities arriving on the red carpet. So we've got the lead singer of Aero Brick there with the headphones on, a child actor of some sort in front of him, and then a female actress before the guest of honour, which is Her Majesty the Queen, who, well, it doesn't need me to tell you, is the guest of honour. She's looking rather fantastic there, getting let in. And then there's all the fans queuing up as well, so they can see the same film, and the paparazzi behind the red rope on that side, including some people who are looking for autographs and what have you. So that's looking pretty good. And then from there, we can see the tram has moved along again. It's now at the station, the railway station stop. And we can go past the diner and look down into the whole boardwalk area, where we've got lots of goings on, but we're probably going to need to do another ninja jump to get over the winding tram line. So after hopping over the monorail line yet again, you can see the Robin Hood statue that's in the middle of the railway line, and down there is the crossing for pedestrians that goes right to the second half of the city. So we can quickly wheel down the boardwalk, which is going to be very tight indeed, very hard to really show you much of. And there is the tunnel that goes through to the station. And here I think we can probably do a bit of a pivot. So we can see the fishing store at the far end, and the crazy golf course. And back where we came from, we can look at the diner and back towards the cinema, and even look at the fish and chip shop there on the left with a giant fish on its roof. Hope you can see that. And right behind us, indeed, is the Crab Shack, which is going to be very hard to show you, very blurred. But you can see in the distance some of the shops that we actually went past on the outside, which are visible across the bay. So I think now we really should jump, well, probably through this alley into the other half of the city and see what we can see from there. So here we are at the other end of the pedestrian crossing across the two railway lines to the front of the main station. And here we've got another coffee chain establishment, and indeed somebody who's just bought a coffee from it. So I'm just going up the taxi rank past the newsstand that makes up part of the station, over the speed bump, to the main view of that station building. And that looks rather fantastic, I think you'll agree. It's a mashup of kind of quite a few Lego stations of old, and I've added a new twist to it and got a good bar going on the top, and incorporated a rather large news shop as well. And then we can look down this street, which is completely deserted of cars now, and see quite a number of buildings that we've done in depth on the channel. Starting from here, we've got the fast food corner, which is my own modular design, straight ahead there. Then a couple more official modulars before we get to the ones on the end, which are the space tower with the ginormous satellite dish on the roof, and the Leaning Tower of Ferrari, which is why that's going off at a very odd angle. And indeed on this side, we've got my latest idea submission, being the Gbc Factory build. Then we've got a couple of spare lots actually before we get to the hospital as well. So we'll see all of that on the way down. The street has quite a few buildings to reach over, as well as quite a few lampposts. Speaking of which, we've got a man on a service truck in the lifting bit trying to fix one of those street lights, as you can see, has blown. So let's go along here. And this is where I've actually just started experimenting with the new cycle lane tiles. So that's going along in front of all of these buildings in this sort of medium azure colour. I think it looks quite good. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it there, but it'll do for now. So let's wheel back a little bit and look at fast food corner. So there's the fast food establishment on the ground floor, next to a pharmacy, next to the opening for a outdoor adventure shop, which takes up the next 2 floors above this section. There's also an antique shop around the corner, which is, well, it's a pawnbroker really, but it's full of antiques. Then we've got Birch Books, which you can see looking up, looking good. The tree is on the back side of that, because people often ask where the birch is for Birch Books. And there's our new police station with loads of policemen out the front, including the commissioner. And on the top of that building is the super secret police base, which is not so super secret, so we can't really see a great deal of that. But it does have quite a lot of interesting things on. I can definitely recommend that video. And then here, another thing we're going to have to really strain our necks looking up at, the 2 very tall towers. We can't see any of the 3D signage on top of the Ferrari Tower just because of its height, but we can see some of the lower down scenes. And this one's got lots of pizza delivery people all coming to deliver pizzas to the workers who must be Italian and homesick in the Ferrari Tower. And there's a Enzo Ferrari statue there. And then we've actually got an alien invasion going on in the space tower, where aliens are riding the lift on the outside, or the elevator, to rescue their leader. So there we go. What will be down here is lots of cargo areas and things like that, but at the moment they are not present. We've got the hospital here, and then the gap, and then there's the Gbc Factory again. And we can see a plane taking right off over there, and that's because that's where the airport is. So starting again at the train station, but now going the other way, we've got one of my other favourite scenes in the city, which is this young boy who's turned his friend accidentally into a frog by borrowing the pinball wizard's magical staff. And that's because the pinball wizard himself was distracted when he was playing his pinball machine that is part of the arcade with the large 3D sign of a Space Invader on the roof. And then on the other side of the road, we've got the crossing with the car that's permanently stuck in between the 2 tracks, and the construction site, which will be making way for a very large build in due course, but I can only design one thing at once. And then we've got the continuation of the tram monorail system that branches at the main station, with one track going all the way over here to the airport station, and that's to make it officially an airport shuttle, just like in the old sets. And from that station you can look down upon the facade of the plane, which has all the people going on holiday via the jetway onto the plane, and we've got all the ground crew underneath them. And then We've got a taxi rank in front of the terminal building with lots of people going about their business. Got a nice pilot there wheeling his case. He's got the attention of the ladies. And there's the terminal building with the control tower above it. And if I can just strain right up, you can see the plane taking off, and that is attached to the wall at a appropriate angle. So another bus stop, and on past all of the baggage handlers in their sort of section of the airport to the hotel and convention. And what's going on at the moment is kind of a Comic-Con type convention. So we've got lots of people dressed up as Power Rangers and Princess Leia and all sorts of things. And that's another incredibly tall building that's going to be quite hard to show you. That's about as far as I can look up. Hopefully that's got it all in shot. This is a lot harder to do than I thought it was going to be, actually. Kind of got a wheel that I'm wheeling around on, and that's why it sort of shakes from time to time. And then there's the farm, which is probably the flattest area of all of them, which makes it probably quite hard to actually share from this perspective. But you can see the cornfield, and there's an alien in the middle of there making a crop circle. And he's come down to do it manually rather than from his flying saucer, which he could have done, which is teleporting up, or tractor beaming up rather, a farmer there. But we've got the barn and all sorts of things like that before we get to the beginning of what will be a very full and very fully motorised fairground. Right, so now back to a more standard view after all the wheeling around the city streets. It was quite difficult to do that, both in reaching and keeping it all in focus and things like that. And there are significant areas that we haven't really covered at all as a result, that are very inaccessible for a camera on wheels. One being the main station with its integrated tram stop and all the rest of it. Another being the harbour area over there, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle lair you can probably see at the bottom, and even the marina over here, and the front run of shops and all sorts of things, just totally inaccessible. So if there's some areas that we didn't cover today that you do want to see more in depth, then do look for one of the other tour videos, because I do one every 25. So it's good to mix it up and make them all a little bit different. Another area we didn't cover, way past the farm, is the fairground, and that's because it's under construction. And well, we've got some of the big rides in, like the roller coaster, the Ferris wheel and the carousel. And I've started building lots of small ones, which I've just put spread out, some of which have got motors attached, some don't. But you can start to get a really good idea of how they'll work if I turn on two of our power boxes, which will all be hidden, all of the workings, in this sort of basement layer between the ground and the table. But the noise of having all these rides, like my pirate ship, our vertical drop ride, shooting gallery, hooker duck, the carousel, and all these other ones that don't have motors attached yet, will really add up and really make the whole area look absolutely fantastic, I think. So do stay tuned for the development of this area. Another thing we didn't motorise earlier was the Gbc Factory, which I can turn on here. And that's got the process of manufacturing ginormous balls from the machine at the top that get passed through the entire process of testing for quality. And we can follow them all the way through until they get packed in a van for supply all around the world. So that's my ginormous ball factory, which is my current ideas project, if you want to go and support that. Another thing we didn't look at much, incidentally, that was the device I was using to wheel around the city, with the phone going in between these sort of gaps between the connectors, and us using this sort of pivoted wheel to wheel around the streets, and now it's covered in dust. So that's why it was quite so tricky, and so it kind of juddered from time to time. Another area we haven't really covered is our subway station, We've got two stations actually on the network, two full ones. This is the haunted one, which I did for Halloween. The other one that it goes all the way underneath the tables and links up with is right under those shops there. So you can hopefully see that there. So we can have both of these trains running. The first one is the haunted one, who haunts this station, and that's mounted on a Duplo base. And he is very angry, as you can see. And then we've got the more normal one, which whizzes from one station to the next. So I do like to motorise as much as I can in a city and have it looking really good. And I think I can hear that first train coming round again. There we go. So that's really good fun. So we should go to the second standing hole, see that popping into the second station, and have the trains running as well. And a quick look at that same scene with some UV light on. I think that really brings out the ghosts. Makes it look really spooky, I think, especially with that moving ghost train. I think you'll agree. The Ghostbusters have got their hands full. And indeed, we've even got the other guys from Hidden Side dealing with the ghosts that are coming out of the subway entrance into the ground above. So there you go. Very hectic scene indeed. Oh, go on then. I'll do a quick tour of the harbour as well with our motorised Coast Guard helicopter, which I just love with these stickers on the end of the rotors. It just looks absolutely amazing. We've even got the powered Vestas wind turbine in the background as well, with all sorts of features like our adventurous balloon, our tourist Dorado Fortress there, lots and lots of cranes and ships and ferries, an evil warehouse for Dr. Inferno, and if you want to see what's inside that, I suggest you watch the video. More fishing boats, got a shrimp boat there, a fishing boat there, and a great big cargo one as well with lots more cranes. And there's even some GBC Factory balls already there for shipping. And now we have the cacophony that is all of our trains running at once, including our incredibly long cargo train. You can keep talking and it does just keep on coming, and you think, oh, it must be the end now. But then there's loads more of it as well. Well, it must be ending soon. Yeah, there it is. With the pump wagon on the end. Fantastic. There's our tram coming down. And our fast passenger train whizzing through. Looking good. So, I hope you've enjoyed the full tour of the city. Here's the second subway. There we go, bang on time. I haven't gone into plans for the future too much today, but there are too many to mention, quite frankly. I'm definitely not running short of ideas. I think you'll agree the city is looking better than ever. So much detail, so many scenes. I hope the lack of focus earlier wasn't too distracting when we were going around these streets. But the city is going from strength to strength, and what I'm really looking forward to, apart from starting my underwater scene, which will be quite detached from the city in many respects, I'm really looking forward to getting all of the Fairground going and being completely finished, because the bits that I've done so far look great, so it just needs all tying together really to make a complete whole. And then we've got the whole area over that side to finish, all of this space to finish, all of these cliff faces that will be down there with the Coast Guard station and so on, bits here and there. I mean, there's absolutely loads to aim at, so don't think that we're finishing this city anytime soon. Now, one obvious downside of videoing from the streets using the wheelie method is that we miss a lot of the scenes going on in the hard to reach areas or the low down areas like the beach and nudity and people relieving themselves in the sea and people checking out Baywatch babes and getting caught doing it. And indeed all the high areas like this wonderful garden on a rooftop or maybe these beekeepers next door. And indeed you can't see from the roads the Krusty Krab pub with its bachelor party, or much of this run of shops, or even the entire marina with the Paradise Cafe, which is one of my favourite areas just because of all of the different levels. So I really like that. But you can always catch all of that in previous tours, or indeed future tours as well. So do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below and maybe become a YouTube member and contribute to making the future Brick Nottingham even better. So until next time, see you!